Hi, my name is Bruce Roth, and my guest today is Dave Horwoodell. Dave is an enrolled agent, and he also is the founder of Torchlight Tax. Dave, what is IRS representation? Why would someone want it? What is it all about?
IRS representation is when somebody signs a power of attorney and they give it to an enrolled agent or a lawyer and so on, so that he can represent them before the Internal Revenue Service. And the reason the person would want this would because maybe they have a large debt with the IRS and they want to negotiate. They could do an offer in compromise, they can get uncollectible status, and an individual, there's difference between an installment agreement, and an individual going down and talking to the IRS is often at a disadvantage because he doesn't necessarily know what they're talking about. And also another thing, it's interesting, but as a tax professional, when you go down to the Internal Revenue Service, you talk to different people. You talk to trained people in the IRS, people who know the law because you know the law. And if it's legal that your client gets a deduction, or get the break, I should say.
You're less likely to get the runaround than an individual would.
Right, and the individual, if he's going down there, maybe talking to a guy who, doesn't have as much experience. Because a lot of time, I've sat down there in the Internal Revenue Service where, a new guy really wanted to help the client out, but he didn't know how to. And an experienced guy would go, okay, the guy had the valid point, so we'll put it in this format, we'll enter it into the computer as this, and it's done. And it's simply the tax professional, the lawyer or the enrolled agent had the advantage in dealing with the...
Because you get assigned more senior personnel.
Yeah, and because you know what you're doing, they know they can't pull the wool over your eyes.
In a prior video, you talked about offer and compromise, but can you give us a little bit clearer picture of what uncollectible status actually means?
Okay, uncollectible status means, I'll give you an example. You're a successful businessman, you have a very successful business, and you make a lot of money, and you blow the money, and you owe the IRS $150,000, and you lose the money because you went on a gambling trip or whatever you did, right? And also your business crashed, so you're not a successful businessman anymore, and you're making $30,000 a year off whatever you're doing. Well, the IRS, if they look at your actual income, yes, you legally owe them $150,000. You don't have any assets they can seize, and you're making that level of income, there's no way for them to collect from you, so they don't try to levy your bank account, they don't hound you, they go, this guy's uncollectible.
Even though they could get a grand or two a year out of you.
Well, the fact of the matter of it is they probably couldn't get a grand or two or you out of there, because they're forbidden by law, if you make less than a certain income, to come after you.
And that's based on the poverty rate in your locality.
Yeah, it's based on what's considered a standard of living. You're not supposed to have to be totally destitute in the United States of America, and they're not supposed to be taking all the, they have actually guidelines, like $30,000 a year, I think, is in Las Vegas, was what their guideline figure was for a guy in Las Vegas. He makes $30,000 or less a year. Well, they're not coming after him for all these back taxes because he can't pay him. He has to need that money just to survive.
So it's as though he were uncollectible even without actually having it declared.
Yeah, well, the IRS will declare him uncollectible for their purposes. He doesn't have any. The key thing though, you can't have any assets that they can seize. Now, if you have a car that's worth $1,000 or $2,000, they're not coming after it.
And what if you have a house with $50,000 or $60,000 in equity?
They're not going to give you uncollectible status. They're going to take that house.
Even if it's your primary residence?
They're going to go right after that house. They'll have no qualms about it. And you're going to have to either get a loan on the house to pay them off, or they're going to take the house, sell it for you. Theoretically, if they get more out of the house than they owe, they'll give it. You get cash.
They're going to sell it for what they're owed.
They're going to, yeah. Well, they might get more. Sometimes they do. But it's sort of like the thing you have to understand about uncollectible status is if it's really uncollectible, if you have anything that they can actually grab onto, even sometimes like if you had a 401k or something like that, you're not necessarily going to win. They're going to come after you, and it's a good idea to have somebody who knows what they're doing, because I had one guy who was uncollectible status. They were actually beating on him to pay, and he would work out an installment agreement, all this stuff. But when we looked at his income, all he really had to do was, we had him sign a power of attorney, we're representing him, but because he's gonna wind up being uncollectible, because he is, and if he voluntarily was paying you money, they were going to be willing to accept it.
Of course. Who wouldn't accept money voluntarily paid?
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you for watching.